decision made not to dive, and that would have been very early, which was around 7, right? About
and you told him to reconsider his decision and permit the dive.
Yes, but then, you see, your instinct, of course, is always to help, right? But when you think about it and you say, well, hold up, do we really know what's going on in there, right? And also, do you really know? Yeah. Do you really know what's going to happen to someone if someone goes in there? Will they be able to come back out? And it's not only about saving those in danger, but also preventing someone from putting, well, their lives at undue risk too. You don't wanna. It's if I look back at my days in the refinery, right? So it's almost tantamount to saying, well, okay, we have a release of H2S or something like that, a gas release, right? And someone is in there. Your first instinct, of course, is to go try and help. But do you go, wait a minute, hold up. Rescuers' lives also matter. And you don't want to have a situation where, and there are instances, if you look at any sort of, well, okay, part of my other technical duties would have been safety management too. And if you look, there are a number of cases where rescuers themselves have, passed in a rescue attempt.
Yes, I mean, that there is an attendant risk for anybody to effect a rescue, isn't there?
Yeah, but sometimes the risk is too high to do so.
You said that very softly. You said sometimes the risk is too high. Did you make that assessment?
No, that wouldn't have been my decision to make.
Not your decision to make?
No, but remember where I was, right? I would not have had the benefit of having those specialist diving companies and so on feeding back into the IMT, the ICP, all their knowledge, right?
Well, they were there on your berth.
They visited, and then they left. The specialist diving companies.
Yes, for a period of some hours, from 7 o'clock or so, they were there, weren't they?
The vessels were there, but the people that would have been taking part in liaising with the ICP would have just visited and then reported back into the ICP.
I'm not sure I'm following you. I thought you told us that from 7 o'clock onwards, there was at least one, and then shortly afterwards another, expert dive boat that had arrived with divers and equipment.
Yes, but the Waterworld was there and the Gulfstream was there. Right? The Waterworld people, right? They were liaising through Andrew Farah, right? So, and I know that they would have had equipment.
So I don't want to interrupt you, but you didn't speak to them. I think you told Mr. Maharaj that earlier. He identified a number of people to you by name. You didn't speak to any of those people, did you? Mr. Beddoe and
So all I knew,
Ramatal.
I was speaking with Mr. Farah, right? So that would have been that. The only other time I would have spoken to, actually no, that would have been my extent of conversation with divers on that night, because the specialist diving people that would have come on behalf of Paria, who one of them owned that Gulfstream vessel, right? They just visited, looked at the camera footage, and they went back in to report to Colin Piper.
Okay.
So it's not that I was liaising with the Mitchell divers or the OTSL divers or anybody like that.
It didn't occur to you to say to those that were there, once you had them, look, gather round, folks. This is the position here. What can you tell me about the prospects of effecting a rescue? Did you inquire with them at all, being the person on site? You were the most senior on site from Paria, weren't you?
Yes.
So did you say to those people, look, gather round, I need to be persuaded by you that this is a sensible plan that you have in mind to effect a rescue, so that I can say to Mr. Colin Piper, look, your order not to go in the water ought to be rescinded, because I think that these people could carry out such a rescue. You didn't do anything like that.
No, because that's not how the IMT works.
Right, you didn't regard that as your responsibility.
Yeah, that's not how the IMT works.
No, right.
We execute at that site and so on, right? And the planning and the logistics, all those arms, feed back into the incident commander. So, and I do know they would have had discussions between Mr. Piper and those specialist diving companies, right? So that's what my understanding was.
So I just want to get it clear. So
Sure.
Are you telling us that as a member of the IMT, you could not have an independent view to make a recommendation to Mr. Piper?
Mr. Piper is always open to recommendations, yes.
So on that evening, you considered yourself that you had a role that you could have had an independent view to make an assessment and make a recommendation to Mr. Piper.
No, that's not how it works. And there's a reason why there's a chain of command in the IMT, right? Mr. Piper would have appreciated any recommendations, but all I'm saying is that I would not have had, or it would be an assumption of me to say, it would be assuming of me to say that would have had all the information, that would have had all the plans then put together and presented. That doesn't occur there.
Okay.
It occurs at a different level where all other information is fed back in. So,
Okay.
you understand?
Okay, so based on the information you had during the time you were there, did you consider that you had sufficient information to recommend to Mr. Piper, instead of spending time getting cameras, that here it is, you have willing divers, they have the equipment, and they want to go into the pipeline to make the rescue?
No.
You didn't consider
No,
that was
because, no.
Because what?
Because at that time, right, I don't know if that plug would have slipped.
Oh, so, okay.
I don't know that.
All right, so let's take it. One, you did not know whether the plug would have slipped. What is the other reason?
So when the plug slips, right, I don't know if it would have caused anything further harm to anybody inside that pipe.
So that's the second reason, right? What's the
Right.
third reason?
And you have to forgive me, right, because I'm not a diver and I would not have the benefit of those other
Okay,
experts.
okay.
But from my perspective, right, fuel oil is not something you could see in, right? This is not light Morby, dark Morby, right? This is something opaque, and I know when oil, what happens when oil gets on stuff, right?
Okay, any other reason?
If someone goes inside there, how are you going to get them back out safely if they have an emergency? Can someone breathe there in that environment? Do you know that fuel oil also may have H2S and so on in it, and VOCs? That this is the benefit of my experience where I worked before, and those would have been the reasons where I'm thinking, well, hold up. After that first instinct of let's try to help, hold up. We don't know what caused it. We just don't know what's going on inside of there, right? How are you going to pull somebody out?
Are you aware that in these proceedings, in the Incotec report, it stated that no delta P could have occurred after the pressure stabilized?
I read the Incotec report, right? And there are a number of issues with that report,
So you're challenging some of the opinions given it.
I'm saying
You're disagreeing with some of the opinions in that report.
I'm disagreeing with some of the assumptions made.
Do you know whether Paria got any expert to review that report?
No.
No.
However, it's very basic what the question I'm saying. If you look at I don't know if I'm allowed to.
But are you aware in that report?
She is allowed. She's asked me if she's allowed to, and she's allowed to.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. You have a view about it. You were asked your view about it, so you're allowed to tell me what your view about it is, all right?
Well, it's just that from one of these schematics, right, it also almost looked, at least in the picture that he had, that the liquid level was the same on both sides, right? But I know it wasn't. It was more like this. Sorry, bird 5, bird 6, with 6, bird 5. So if it's more like this, right, versus this, then if something is like this, something is pushing down, and if you have something stuck here, I don't know if that, might have moved.
That was a factor which you regarded as important to take into account in assessing risk.
Yes.
It's not a factor to prevent any rescue at all, though, is it? Or is it?
Well, if something moves, right, in that line, right, I don't know the impact it would have had on a diver and on whatever he's attached to, because remember at that time, right, something violent would have happened to cause 5 able-bodied people to go inside. And these were fit people, huh?
And all their equipment.
Well, true. And all their equipment, right? Something violent would have happened, right?
Yes.
And then here it is. I don't know where that plug is. And I don't know if this is going to slip.
But what I'm asking, I follow all of that, and I respect the point you're making, that this is an unknown factor.
Correct.
What I'm asking you is whether or not it is a factor such that it would prevent you from effecting any rescue at all.
I would want to say that certainly I would have preferred if the plug could not move. Because, no, here why, right? I could, let me give you a simple example, right? I could fall down the steps and I may be fine, but I could also fall on the step and break my neck. And unconscious divers don't breathe well. I don't know how well it works.
Well, how did you know they were unconscious?
Well, if something happens in that pipe with a rescuer that causes him to hit his head or causes him to get in contact with equipment or whatever, right? This is just me as a layperson.
No.
I'm not a...
Well, no, I don't need your speculation as a layperson. I need your opinion as someone who understands the dangers involved in the oil industry.
Well, oil, but it's slightly different. What pressures you expect to get when something and that plug moves, right? So if that plug moves, right?
There's a potential for danger.
There's a potential for danger because there's a potential for something slipping and having a rush of liquid, taking with it the diver or having something hit him.
Yeah.
That is my opinion.
So I'll come back to my question, please. Is it in your mind such that it is an impediment to any rescue at all?
Yes.
Right. So irrespective then of anything that might have been obtained by way of expert divers and equipment and all of that, your view, your independent view, and I appreciate it is your independent view.
Not Paria.
Your independent view is that that plug of itself was sufficient to justify no rescue.
At that time, because if you recall, right?
I thought that's what you just said.
Yes. But there's a way to deal with the plug, huh?
Right.
So if you, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead.
No. You say there's a way to deal with the plug and still effect a rescue?
and, and
As opposed to a
still,
recovery?
and still lower the risk associated with the plug, right?
Okay, what is that?
So, if you recall, we would have looked at trying to find out where the plug is, and we took off the flange at bit 5,
Yes.
right? So we wanted to see where that plug was, right, to determine whether or not it will move or not. And later on, right, later on we were thinking, well, okay, can we just do the Incotech report, which is to see if it could have been equalized or so on. Both sides.
I'm struggling a little, Ms. Balkasoon, with this. If no one had ever been in that pipe, I could understand what you're saying, in the sense that, look, we have no idea whether they're alive or dead. We have no idea of the circumstances in which they came to be sucked into the pipe in a violent way that you described. What we know, and what you knew, and Mr. Piper knew, LMCS knew, was that a man had been in that pipe for nearly 3 hours and had managed to get himself out of it.
Yes.
That is more information than you would ever normally expect in such a situation. It was through his own heroics that he managed to get himself out of that pipe. So it gave you information that, first of all, they were alive. Secondly, that they were alive because there were air pockets inside that pipe. And thirdly, that they'd all tried to escape. Did you know any of that?
At that time?
Yes.
At that time, when I first arrived, I did not know about any air pockets. It's only later.
Later when?
When Colin told me that he spoke to Mr. Boudram about air pockets.
Right.
That was
So you didn't know that until 10 o'clock that night?
Yes. I don't remember where it is.
It doesn't matter. You certainly mentioned it.
Yeah.
So that I'm clear, the position at the moment is this, is that you independently take the view that the plug was the crucial issue, and that in the absence of knowing where that plug was, you would not have permitted anyone to perfect or to effect a rescue.
Well, not the crucial. There were other considerations, right?
No, I appreciate that, but I thought you were saying that of itself was sufficient, that the fact that there was that issue would have prevented you from saying anybody should enter that pipe.
Among other things, yes.
Thank you.
So your concern about the plug was that you were concerned about if there could have been another delta P to push the plug.
Yes.
Yes. I want to
Well,
read to you.
Go ahead.
I want to read to you what the Incotech report stated at it's dated the addendum 6th of December 2022, and it starts at page 1533, and it's at 1534 at paragraph 4.5. It's on the screen.
Oh, sorry.
Prior to Mr. Christopher Boudram's rescue, the entire system stabilized and equalized itself at both ends of SL36, and thus allowed Mr. Boudram to negotiate the pipe without any disruptions, as the system was static. This condition was the best opportunity to attempt a rescue, as removing the blank at berth 5 or shutting down the compressor would have released the stored potential energy from the compressor and thus disturb the equilibrium and thereby imperil any divers in air pockets. So, one, do you understand that to say that delta P was no longer a threat?
Well, I understand that the Incotech person said that the entire system stabilize and equalize itself at both ends.
And it also said that the best time for a rescue was shortly after Budram came out of the pipe.
Because he's basing it on that the system was static, yes.
Yes.
But how would he have known that?
Okay.
Oh, because Boudram came out the pipe.
No, that's not technically correct.
Okay.
Well, because just because you have his report earlier would have been like this, right? So Mr. Budram came out the pipe when it was like this. Right. That does not mean that the plug itself, there's not any guarantee that that plug itself is never going to move. That could move under somebody hit it, it deflated more, all sorts of things. Yes.
Could have moved at any moment in time.
Yes, correct. And if you go on to read what he says, right? Right. This condition was the best opportunity to attempt a rescue as removing the blank or shutting on the compressor would have released the stored potential energy and thus disturbed the equilibrium and imperil any divers in their pockets. If the plug moved, then the sentence continues. This means that from the compressor and thus disturb the equilibrium and imperil any divers in their pockets. Just like if the plug moved, the equilibrium would be disturbed and imperil divers also. I'm
Understanding exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
I get it, yeah. If that plug moved, it could have caused a problem. For example, if it went further into the pipe, it would have presumably sucked more water and fuel in that direction.
Yeah. Maybe I'm not yeah, because I see Mr.
That's what you mean, isn't it?
Yeah, he's looking,
And the point that Mr. Maharaj is asking, actually, though, is whatever the position is with the fluids in this pipe, at that particular moment in time, it was kept in equilibrium, partly because the flange was on at this end, so it was lower here. When that plug moved in, compressed the air between the fluid and the top of the flange, the bottom of the flange, such that it created an equilibrium between the plug. I see you shaking your head. Allow me to finish for the moment, please. When the plug was sucked into the pipe, it stopped at a point for one of two reasons. Either because it got jammed in the pipe, a little kink or something like that, and it got jammed on a weld or any of those sort of things, or equilibrium was reached, whatever it was. One of those two. Do you agree with that, first of all?
It's not one of two.
One of those two.
It's not one only of one of those two.
You mean there are other possibilities?
Well, if you think about it a little bit, right? I'm just trying to be. The plug could have just slowed down and stopped. At that time, we would not have known whether it's up, down. We would not have known that.
No, but the plug would slow down and stop because equilibrium was reached.
Because there was no more force pushing it.
Exactly. Equilibrium is reached.
So, therefore, on one side, it may not be just because the air was compressed, right, and therefore pushing that way. It could be also when you're moving the plug along this way, it naturally comes to a stop.
Why would it naturally come to a stop? It's only moving because there's a force on it.
Because of the friction and the forces. By that time, right, from what I understand also, it could be that the compressor would have been able to blow on the chamber.
Well,
and
that's the point, isn't it? At one end, you had the force of the compressor pushing down. At the other end, you had the flange. Right? In between the two is this plug that has now moved from where it was originally, right?
Yes.
And it's come to a stop. I'm suggesting to you, tell me if I've got this wrong, that it's only one of two reasons why it could come to a stop. Either because the pressure on either side is equal, or because it's hit some sort of kink or weld or something in the pipe and it's jammed it in place.
Or the force behind it would have slowed it down such that it naturally came to a stop. When you say stuck, right, it means jammed and there's no way for fluid or air or anything to pass through, right? But it could have also stopped here, naturally slowing it down. If you take a ball and you roll it on the ground. It just, and you roll it on the ground, right? It could stop because it bounces on something. It could stop naturally of its own accord. You understand?
Forgive me, I don't, because I don't see that as being a proper comparison at all.
Okay,
You're in a tube which is sealed at either end, either because you've got a force of pressure on one end or a flange at the other. It's closed. And anything that moves along it is only going to move because there's a force greater on one side or the other. I recognise that there is every prospect that the plug might have stopped because of some rupture in the pipe, some sort of kink or a part of a weld or something stopped it moving along. That would pose a greater risk because obviously there is now still a differential between the two sides. If it stopped of its own accord, merely because the pressure on that side was the same as the pressure on that side, doing anything to affect that was more likely to cause a problem, surely.
Yes, doing anything to affect the equilibrium.
If it was.
Yes.
So, and that is the reason why I think for a period of 4 or 6 hours, Mr. Piper refused to remove the flange at number 5.
Yes.
Because there was the prospect that the pressure that had built up between the fluid and the top of the underside of that flange was such that it was holding everything in place.
Yes.
The minute you opened it,
Correct.
so it would go across, wouldn't it?
Yes.
And that was a good reason not to do it.
Yes.
Right. So that was one reason. Forces are equal, that's why it's stable. Mm-hmm. That is why, it may be the reason why, Mr. Boudram was able to come out of the pipe and Mr. Kerbenway was able to go in it. That may be the reason. It may be that is not the reason. It may be that the plug has just got jammed in there and there's a problem, the kind of problem you anticipate. I don't see any other alternative, apart from your ball rolling across the floor and coming to a hole.
No,
which
but there's
I don't
friction.
understand.
There's friction of whatever's behind too, pushing
There's what?
it. There's friction of whatever is behind it also.
Well, friction is another force, I understand that, as is gravity. All of these things are coming together to create an equilibrium one side or the other.
Okay.
Isn't it?
Okay.
So I don't understand the point you're making. As I understand it, your concern, not without some merit, if I may say so, is that you did not know where this plug was or why it had stopped. And it seems to me, from what we've heard so far and what we've read, is there are only 2 possibilities. Equalized pressure on either side of that plug or it's jammed.
Well,
You're saying that's not right. There may be other possibilities.
Yes.
Right, okay. Well, I will no doubt discover them from somewhere else because I don't follow yours, I'm afraid.
Okay.
But I understand you're rejecting what I've suggested to you.
I'm saying there may be other reasons why the plugs.
Right, okay. Thank you very much.
In respect of the opinion you have given us today about that plug, did you communicate that opinion to the IMT?
I don't understand the question.
The opinions that you have given about the plug, that your concerns about the plug.
That it could move?
Yes.
Yes.
Did you communicate that to the IMT?
I spoke to Colin, yes.
Yes. Do you know whether Paria or the IMT in Paria got an expert opinion in respect of your views?
Yes.
From who?
I believe he contacted someone from Heritage.
From Heritage?
Yes.
And you don't know who that person is?
No.
Was it a written opinion?
Well, you'll have to ask Colin that.
Oh, I have to ask for that.
Right?
Well, can I tell you, so far in the proceedings, I've not seen any such opinion.
Well, I can't help you with that.
Okay. No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Maharaj. Ms. Balkisud, you all right?
Yeah, but I just want to, get it over.
You want it over with. I understand that entirely. We're going to do our best. Right, we are going to ask who would like to ask questions. I'll see a show of hands, first of all. We'll hear, first of all, from Miss Alfonso. She represents the union. She's sitting at the back. She'll introduce herself.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My name is Enquiry Alfonso, and I represent the interests of the SWWTU, as the chairman has said. Ms. Balkisud, I'm struggling with a few issues, so I hope that you could assist me. You said you have been working with, I gather, was the predecessor to Paria since 1998, yes?
Yes.
And I did hear also, but very sotto voce, that you worked somewhere else before? You were saying something where you worked before, you had certain experience. Where is that place?
No, well, I said I worked Petrotrin,
Okay.
and I would have worked at Paria.
Oh, okay. So when you said somewhere else, you meant Petrotrin?
Well, Petrotrin and Paria are two different.
Okay. Right. So since 1998. And if I understand your evidence earlier today, Mrs. Balkisuna, there is no, Paria and presumably Petrotrin did not have any emergency, part of the emergency response plan that dealt with the possibility of a Delta P. That is correct?
Paria didn't have an emergency response plan, no.
Could you say if Petrotrin did?
No, I can't say that.
You can't say that. Okay. Ms. Balkisoon, and you would have said that the way to avoid the risk attendant with a Delta P would be to engineer that out of the works, I suppose, out of any plan or any works or any scope of works, as the case may be.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Balkisoon, are you aware that in or about, and these are my instructions, between 2001 and 2002, there was an incident involving Delta P at the Point Forting facilities of Petrotrin. Are you aware of that?
No.
Okay. Are you aware that the diver, I have to say diver stroke welder from my instructions, was working in a habitat? There was an explosion. He was sucked into a pipeline on the Point Fortin jetty, and that he was rescued successfully by a diver, one diver with scuba and a rope. And well, I can't say he's alive now, but he did not die of his injuries.
Okay.
Okay, so if an incident happened like that, having regard to your long tenure in Paria and Petrotrin, wouldn't that form part, well, A, institutional memory? Wouldn't you try to, as you say, engineer your way around a reoccurrence of something of that nature? Because it's something that's already happened in a pipeline.
It really depends on the circumstances by which that accident and incident occurred, right? I mean, we're always open in safety to learn from incidents of the past, right? And if that accident report was a paper or something accessible to me, surely I would have read it.
Can I ask, please, Ms. Alfonso, is there a report of this incident? I'm assuming there would be one.
Well, I must say I have been trying my damnedest to get access to some written format, and so we were obliged to go to, I should say, the former union, not the SWWTU, in order to get some institutional memory of this incident. And the actual gentleman who was rescued is now deceased.
All right. Well,
so you're able to get some health and safety persons.
I would be very interested, obviously, to know, and no doubt with others, of such an existence. There's nothing in the papers that we have, of the many tens of thousands of pages that we have, there's nothing to suggest that this had happened then. If it did, can I ask you, please, to find, doing your hardest rather than damnedest, to discover such information as you're able to provide to us, please. We will do the same, but it seems to me if this lady knows nothing about it, we can't really ask her any more about it.
And certainly, Mr. Chairman, I said, I only recently found out this information, and we have been really trying to see if we can get some documents that would assist. However, of course, because that entity is no longer a live commercial entity, I think that's part of the difficulty. But it seems to me that, I asked myself the question, could this be the first time that something like this happened ever in the world? And it does not appear that is the case.
Well, one has only got to go on to Google to find out that that isn't the case. But leaving that aside, obviously if it's something that has happened at the predecessors to Paria, with many of the same employees still engaged there. There's nothing wrong with you asking them about it. But once the witness has said she knows nothing about it, it's not fair to, as it were, try and elicit it through her or anything more. So leave that subject, please. We will do our investigations. You'll do the same. And I won't stop you asking any other Paria people who might have been there at that time if they know about it. If they do, they can no doubt tell you. But I think that's as far as we can take it with this lady.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Okay. But Ms.
I'm sorry. I think, Mr. Ramadar, have you got your hand up for a reason to intervene because of some legal position, or you're just anxious to get on your feet, are you? All right. Hold your horses, Mr. Ramadar. You'll get your chance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Ramadar. Ms. Palkisoon, and I'm leaving that issue aside, but I'm sure I heard you say something in your evidence this morning about your experience in I don't know, recovery stroke rescue in pipelines. Did I hear it incorrectly?
Yes, you did.
Okay. Right? Okay. My junior tells me that, he heard the same thing, that you had some experience with rescue operations. I don't know, maybe I misheard it.
No. So, not rescue operations,
I
right?
see.
But remember, in the refinery world and in the hydrocarbon industry, we would have a department called operations, right? And as part of operations, you would be part of other IMTs and so on. So it's not operations in the sense that operations of rescue in a pipeline, no.
Well, are there other kinds of rescues that you're aware of from your involvement in the operations department?
Yes, well, for example, right, if someone is feeling unwell on top of a tank, that's a form of rescue also.
Okay.
Right? So it's not specific to something that, well, diving and guys in a pipeline. Anybody who has worked in the industry would have, in my field as well as in operations, would have had some level of experience in operations and IMT.
Okay, and would you be able to tell us, Ms. Balkisoon, from your experience in the operations department or division, as the case may be, Petrotrin stroke Paria would have some emergency protocols? Meaning, I'm just using your example.
Sure.
Somebody feels unwell at the top of a storage tank or, of that nature. You would have emergency protocols to bring that person safely down.
Yes.
To the ground, I assume, and whisk them away to hospital or give them some emergency care on site, something of that nature, yes?
Yeah, they'll bring them down, stabilize, so on, and send them to the emergency care, yes.
So this scenario that we are before the Commission, well, for the last few weeks this was also an emergency, yes?
Yes.
And wouldn't quick response be absolutely necessary in this emergency as well, involving 4 different people, not just one person on the top of a tank?
Yes. Yes.
In your view, Ms. Balkisoon, the response of Paria, insofar as you were involved, did you find that urgent? Did you find that response urgent in relation to the scenario that was known to you before you came on the scene, which is that 4 persons were missing and presumably in the pipe? Not presumably by that time, known to be in the pipe.
You're asking me if, just make sure I understand the question.
Sure,
right?
please.
You're asking me if I thought that the response prior to my arrival on site was urgent?
No.
Okay.
Did you find the response of Paria, of which you were part of it, yes? You're part of the ICT, you're part of the process. Did you find that response to be urgent?
Yes.
You found all the actions of Paria to be urgent?
I found the response to be urgent, yes.
Okay, so let's look at that. When I want to be fair to you, I understand your position to be Paria, including yourself, did not know the conditions in the pipe.
Correct.
Right? And I wouldn't carry you over what you thought were the conditions in the pipe. And you didn't know what they were. and you wanted to ascertain what they were.
Correct.
Okay. Did you, Ms. Balkisoon, at any point in time think that, okay, so let's be fair to you again. You knew there were divers there with commercial equipment, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Did you think that commercial equipment would have involved surface supplied air, tethering, communication, lighting, to which all of which the diver would be, well, I want to say attached to or have access to?
Yes.
Did you see any of that equipment? Did you, in your own, for your own self, did you see any of that equipment able to counteract the risk that you felt existed in the pipeline?
No. Not. There's a difference.
Okay.
There's a difference, right? To having all the equipment there, right? So, for example, right? Communications would have been important. Lighting would have been important too. However, to what extent? Because you're in a oiled environment and so on. So there's a difference to how much equipment you have, the best equipment you have, and being able to adequately use that equipment to perform a safe rescue. There's a little bit of difference.
Ms. Balkisoon, you've said earlier that you are not a diver yourself.
Yes, but you asked me my opinion.
Okay, so you did not feel that having all of these things I just described would be able to counteract the risk that you thought existed in the pipe. So let's take your risk. The plug could move, yes, and may perhaps cause some other secondary vortex, although the technical report says differently. And my instructions say differently too, but I'm taking you at what you appreciate as the risk.
Sure.
The fact that a diver would be tended, and tending means somebody's holding the lighting, the air, and so on that is being supplied to the diver from on topside on a vessel, so that if this was created, this person is being held in place, meaning he can't be sucked further into the pipe because he's being tended topside. Did you not find that in your mind? I know I said you're not a diver, but if that equipment was there, would that not counteract the risk that you believed existed?
If an event occurred where something is causing a suction and someone is tethered to something, then it does this. It's jerked, right? And the person who's attached means he can't move with the same force that everything else surrounding it is moving. So he would have been jerked and so on. He remaining in place and having other objects past him and so on could mean that things hit him. So maybe you're not understanding the question.
Okay, so one of the things that a diver of that nature would be wearing, Ms. Balkisoon, would be a helmet. So let's assume, again, can't say that I'm an expert in Delta P. If that person really was in that environment you described, he's wearing a helmet, he's being held, he's being tethered, he can be withdrawn, he can be held in place. He's wearing a helmet so that if a tank hit him, an empty or full, for that matter, diving tank hit him, he'll be wearing a helmet, which we have heard in from previous witnesses might weigh as much as 28 pounds.
Okay.
Right? Do you not think that that will counteract the risk that you felt was existing? No, not that either.
No.
So the position is no matter what equipment came, first world, second world, best divers in Trinidad, saturation divers, commercial divers, no amount of equipment or personnel will be sufficient to attempt the rescue.
I can only go and tell you what I saw there, right? And on that night, with that equipment, right, that we had, and based on the experts and the specialist diving companies that were present also, right? All of them said it was too risky. And they themselves would have had an understanding, because it's their equipment, of how the equipment works, how it is tethered, and they also would have been in the best position to know risk and so on. That is what I'm saying.
Which specialist said that, Ms. Balkisoon, or which diver said that? Because I just want to be clear. We know from Waterworks, is it Waterwork or Waterworld's divers that they were willing to let other certified divers use their equipment because their time to dive had passed, meaning they had been in the water for some time before they came on location to assist. So they couldn't send their divers because their divers, like how I think airline pilots are, they have X amount of hours that they can operate in, but they were willing to let other people use their equipment to effect the rescue. So could you tell us which divers? Which divers or which experts, to your knowledge, said it was too risky to go down into the pipeline?
Those conversations would have been taking place at the ICP level.
Okay.
Inside that, well, not level, I should say, in that, not on the barge.
So how do you know, Ms. Balkisoon?
Because Mr. Piper told me.
Mr. Piper told you. Okay,
Yes.
Mr. Piper is coming after you. We will ask Mr. Piper. So you do not know. Nobody told you, Ms. Balkisoon, it's too risky. And I want to be fair to you. Lieutenant Hargrave would have told you from the Coast Guard, we are not trained. We don't have the equipment to undertake this rescue.
Yes.
Not that it's too risky. We are not trained and we do not have the equipment.
No, he also said it was too risky.
Did he not?
But that was
Do you know
scuba,
why
yeah?
he said it was too risky, Ms. Balkisoon? I was trying to be fair to you. Not because he wasn't trained and his men were not trained and they didn't have the equipment.
Remember, he had only scuba. His men, when I showed him the cut riser, he also said it was too risky. Did I say
Did
that?
he not also tell you that his men were not trained?
Yes, he did say he didn't have the commercial equipment.
And he didn't have the equipment.
Correct.
So I put it to you, Ms. Balkisoon, that is why he did not undertake, or he and his men, to be fair, it's not one person, did not undertake the rescue. They did not have the training. They were not saturation divers. They're not confined spaces divers. They're not doing penetrative divers.
All right, please.
Sorry, I'm
just
sorry.
a moment.
I'm
just
sorry.
a moment. Just a moment. You don't need to answer that question. We have the evidence already. The position is clear. As far as I'm aware, the evidence is that the Coast Guard were not prepared and regarded it as too risky for themselves because they didn't have either the equipment or the training for their divers to effect the rescue. That is quite a separate matter from commercial divers who arrived on the scene also. So we've already got that evidence. We don't need to pursue it any further, and I don't need your view about it. With the greatest respect to you, all right? It's not your fault, Ms. Balkisoon. It's not necessary to put each and every particular divergence of fact to each and every witness. This is not a court of law, all right? We're seeking to establish facts, and we'll decide what those facts are in due course. All right. Thank you very much. Next matter, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Balkisoon, one of the issues you've raised this morning as well is the presence of oil in the pipeline and the difficulty, I guess you're trying to say the difficulty in swimming in it or maneuvering in it or seeing in it as the case may be, yes?
Yes.
Okay. So if I go towards the end of your witness statement submitted to the Commission, when the water displacement process was being undertaken. I note.
Which article? Or?
Sorry, the water displacement. And let's see. We will go to Monday, and thereon, there's a system of pumps was being used to pump the pipes from Monday onwards. Yes. Monday the 28th, I think?
During the recovery exercise.
During the recovery exercise, yes, to be fair.
Okay.
I noticed what this is your narrative. Yes. I noticed what you have described as coming out of the pump during the water displacement exercise is water. For the first day in particular, it's water coming out. Yeah, am I right?
Yes.
Okay. So that means, and tell me if I'm wrong, because I'm likely to be wrong at all times, that means that the contents of the pipeline, a large amount of the contents of the pipeline was in fact water.
Yes.
Okay. So that we know, so that when you say that one of the factors which influence your view that it was unsafe to go down in the pipeline because there's a lot of oil in the pipeline, isn't it that the pipeline you could see when it was pumped was largely filled with water, seawater, I presume? You do say later, again to be fair to you, do say later that you estimated some oil came out perhaps mainly on the last day when you were looking for the fourth remaining diver. And you estimated the amount of oil or hydrocarbon that was still in the line as I think about 200 or 250 barrels, something around there.
Yes.
So okay. So that would mean largely what was contained in this particular pipeline running between berth 5 and 6 was water.
Yes.
And therefore a diver could have, do you think, to be fair to you, do you think a diver wouldn't be able to maneuver in a largely water environment?
Yes. However, yes.
Yes, okay, thank you for that. Okay, so that one of the factors that, influenced your decision that it was too dangerous to conduct the rescue, that is not so then, because when you pumped the line, when the line was pumped, it was largely water.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that, Miss Balkisu. Ms. Balkisoon, when there was a report of knocking on the pipe, and this would be, there were two reports to be fair to you, but in your time on the berth or the barge, there was a report that knocking was heard by LMCS's personnel towards berth 5.
HSC told me yes.
Okay. Okay. Your HSC people told you that they heard knocking, or there was a report of knocking?
I don't remember.
Okay. So you know something about knocking?
Yeah.
Okay.
All I remember is that they came to me and they said, LMCS people saying that they're hearing knocking on the pipe, and then I asked the HSC guy, I don't remember his name, well, who is it, so I could talk to them, and if it was a pattern, you know what I mean, or if it's a random, and they said, no, they can't tell me who or anything like that, so
okay.
It's, yeah, that's just how it was.
So, to be fair again, to be fair
yeah.
to you again, Ms. Balkisoon, in the, what the chairman has described as the document dump that we received on Monday, we have a S. Rampisoon reported hearing divers knocking. This is Paria's records that were supplied from the ICT.
Okay.
Right? Is that somebody you know, S. Rampisoon? Because this is
I know,
Paria.
I know
this is Paria's.
he's an HSC person.
Yes?
He's a HSC person.
Okay. And that is...
My friend allowed the witness to answer the question when she posed it.
Sorry.
I think also I'd quite like to see the document you're referring to. Can you give us a page number, please?
1572, sir.
Of the corrected bundle.
Unfortunately, no.
15?
that's the correct page, yes.
Oh, okay.
Right, thank you.
1648 hours.
This is what you're referring to?
Yes, 16,
Okay.
16, you see 1648 they're highlighted?
Yes, S. Ramkisoon reported heard the divers knocking, yes.
Okay. So this is before, this is before Mr. Budram was rescued.
Yes.
Okay. And I want you to go to the next page, which I hope is 1573. to 1900, I hate these versions, 1959 hours.
Right.
Right? Faint knocking being heard ever so often, reported via radio personnel. Yes?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. This would be at berth 5?
I wouldn't know that. I don't know what information was passed to the ICT.
Okay, sure. So, did anybody report to you, Ms. Balkisoon, while you were on or around berth 6 that knocking was being heard?
Yes, the HSC persons did tell me that the CS people, I don't know where, hold on, I could find it back, what time that was.
It's in your statement of paragraph
Yeah.
21.
Oh, right. 21 has it.
Did you relay that to the incident commander or anybody else in the ICT?
She says so in the
Yes,
paragraph.
okay, I see. Right. And when you heard this information, about the knocking, Ms. Balkisoon, did that influence your position at all with respect to the rescue?
Well, when you mean influence, because this was around 8 o'clock, right? I didn't hear any noises or anything like that, right? I believe at that time Fisham was still there, right? And I think I might have asked him to go and check. Check by bridge. So on the barge, right? If it is me on the barge and someone who is an HSC person came and said that there's knocking, the LMC said there was knocking, right? I didn't hear it, right? And I've tried to find out, well, who said it, and so on. So the next place of information was to go to the bridge 5, and I think I might have asked Fisham to check.
So you yourself did not go to berth 5?
No, I didn't take the boat to go over, no.
So the question was, Ms. Balkisoon, the fact that at this time, at about 8 o'clock, that there's not reports of knocking at berth 5. Did that influence your position with respect to the rescue, that it should, we should really rescue, because by this time, diving is stopped. Mr. Piper has told you diving is to stop.
Yeah, by this time, yes.
Right? And there are divers and equipment on site. And now, I would use Mr. Ramada's formulation from Monday. This might have been proof of life. Knocking inside the pipe might have been proof that other divers, aside from Mr. Budram, were alive.
If they were true, yes.
If it were true,
yes,
it might mean that there were people in the pipeline trying to signal that they were alive.
Yes.
Did you relay that to the ICT?
Yes.
Commander or anybody else in the ICT?
Yes. And maybe that's why they have this note or something. I don't know, on the ICT log.
Well, I'm not sure how it was compiled, I have to confess.
Well, how it works is that everything that's normally reported in real time, that log is updated by a scribe. That's how it is.
So bringing you back to the environment that you felt would not sustain life. We know now that it was largely water from what was pumped from the line on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and so on after the incident. And we also know that up to 8 o'clock, there are people potentially alive in that environment.
Yes.
And well, I have your answer ready. That did not influence your position with respect to facilitating any rescue operations. So I wouldn't ask. I see you mention a couple of things here. It is you mentioned a GoPro device was recovered at some point in time, fairly early, because it's around the 6 p.m. type time, which is when you arrived.
Yes.
Okay. And you requested your health and safety personnel to recover it.
Because I was interested to see what was on it, to help to see what caused the event.
Okay. And what did you do with the GoPro when it was retrieved?
I wasn't able to access it.
You could help me out a little bit by what that means. Somebody placed the GoPro in your hand and you were not able to access the footage on it?
I was unable to put my hand on the GoPro.
Okay. Okay. What? Do you know what happened to the GoPro? You asked somebody to retrieve it for you. It wasn't retrieved. Do you know what happened to it?
It wasn't retrieved. It wasn't handed over.
It wasn't
Paria.
handed over. Okay, thank you very much for that. The footage that was received from what went down first is the boroscope, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Did you share, I'm sure in your witness statement you said you viewed the footage that was obtained from the boroscope firstly, yes?
Not on that night, no.
Okay.
And not in real time.
Not in real time, okay. Did anybody, to your knowledge, share the information or the footage obtained by the boroscope with anybody from LMCS or any of their rescue divers?
I can't say if that was shared at a different level than myself.
Sorry, say that again?
I can't say if it was shared at a different level to myself.
Okay, but you yourself don't know?
No.
Okay. And you didn't view it in real time, as you said?
No.
And what about the footage from the crawler?
The footage from the crawler?
Mm-hmm.
The footage of the crawler, to my knowledge, because I looked at it in real time, I wasn't shared with LMCS, no.
No.
But I don't know, and I can't confirm it was shared any time else with LMCS.
But to your knowledge, it wasn't shared with LMCS or any of their rescue divers?
On that night? No.
Well,
I can't, yeah.
It's an emergency, so
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
The purpose of the boroscope and the crawler, Miss Balkisoon, was to ascertain what the conditions were in the pipeline, yes?
Yes.
Because you felt that the conditions in the pipeline could not sustain life and might be dangerous for another person to go down into it, yes?
It would be dangerous for someone to go on, yes.
Okay. So would it not have been important, Miss Balkisoon, for the rescue volunteer divers, I see all sorts of names, but let's say the volunteer rescue divers, would it be important for them to view that so they can, plan, they could plan, a dive or a rescue or put together a plan as the case may be, because they will have information?
The information would have been shared with our specialist diving companies.
Okay. Could you identify who those meaning Paria, I presume,
Yes.
specialist diving companies were?
OTSL and Mitchell.
And Mitchell. Okay, thank you. Anything else? No. Thank you, Ms. Balkisoon. Thank you very much. Well, I'm saying thank you very much, Mr. Ramadan. It has his hands up.
Mr. Ramadan.
Good afternoon, Ms. Balkisoon. You, of course, wish to expedite your position out of that seat, don't you?
Yes.
Yes. My name is Prakash Ramada. I represent Aliyah and, of course, Aliyah Henry and the family of Kurban, okay?
Okay.
You appreciate that you would have been in that box a little short, or a little bit beyond 2.5 hours.
My impression of time is somewhat much more than that, but okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Seems pretty long, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. At least the time that Christopher would have been in that pipe before, by the grace of God, he was rescued. Yes? Yeah? Pretty long time. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. You're a scientist, you've told us. You believe in English and in maths, correct?
I'm an engineer.
Science.
Engineer.
Engineer. Yeah.
Yes.
And you appreciate then engineers deal with, first of all, possibilities with scientific basis, correct?
Yes.
And then probabilities.
Yes.
Explain to us commoners the distinction between possibilities and probabilities. Let me help you. It is possible that I could win the lotto, right? But it is not probable if I didn't buy a ticket. You agree?
It is possible for you to win the lotto,
Yes.
and it's probable because you didn't buy a ticket.
Yeah.
Well, it's impossible.
Thank you
because
so
didn't
much.
buy a
So that
ticket.
if you took no action to rescue, no rescue was possible. You agree?
No, I don't agree.
If you took no action to rescue, zero action to rescue, no rescue was possible.
No, I don't agree.
Well, explain.
Because if I took no action,
When I say to you, I put that in Paria and the resources of the state. If no action was taken to rescue, then no rescue was possible.
there were other people there, though.
All right. And you have told us Paria took a decision that no diving, right?
Yes.
So that we don't have much time, I mean, unfortunately. If no action by anyone is taken to rescue, there will be no possibility of a rescue. You agree with that, don't you?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Now, we've been hearing about this Delta P business, right? They function basically in a pipeline-laden industry. It's basically Delta P. You pump and you push, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. And therefore, one of the highest forms of your expertise will be about pumping, vacuum creation, and pushing and creating Delta Ps. Isn't it?
No.
No?
No.
Isn't it that one of the largest part of oil production or oil movement, pumping?
Yes.
Thank you. Now,
But
I want to ask one big favor of you, please, because the gentleness of
If Miss Balkisoon, as she's done with everyone, including me, wants to give an answer, which she does, and to be commended for it, but then adds a but, she must be allowed to say what the but is, all right?
Sorry. Of course.
She has the commendable aspect of answering questions with a yes or no, and then adding her but, which I would encourage everyone to do. So if there is a but.
Yes.
But so can I? She did say but, and then you cut in. So
Yes,
allow her to say what she has to say.
well, I mean, oil movement, yes, but you asked me about my experience. I'm not only experienced in oil movement and so on. I would have worked on reaction type plants, etc. So
In fact, you have a wider experience and knowledge than just that simple issue of Delta P, correct?
I wouldn't say simple, but yes.
Yes. But you know full well that a large part of the business involves Delta P as a matter of the daily exercise of the functions of that institution of Paria, isn't it?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, I was asking a favor, please, because the gentlest of gentlemen brought you to tears, and I do not intend to do that. Okay?
Well, I do appreciate that.
Thank you. It is nothing personal. You, of course, appreciate that immediately upon the accident being reported to you, with your wide experience, 98 you were there, 1998, Mary? Yeah. That accidents do occur from time to time on the plant, in the industry, yes?
Yes.
Yes. And you have told all of us that one of your grave concerns, which you shared with your team, was the issue of the further movement of this plug, correct?
Yes.
Which may have created a catastrophic movement to endanger the lives that are already imperiled within the pipe, correct?
Yes.
And possibly those who may wish to put their lives literally on a line, we heard about Teta, to save them. Their lives too could have been imperiled, yes?
Yes.
Right. Now, we're dealing with fluids, air, in the pipe, air. Did you have a view that there would have been air in the pipe at any stage?
If you look at my statement,
No, I'm not interested in your statement. I'm interested in your evidence as you have sworn here today. Sitting as you are with the widest of experience, did you consider that there may have been air in the pipe at any stage?
I thought that if it had air, it would not be called air. It would be called a vapor space. That's one. Two, it's very unlikely with a very high level on one side,
Right.
right?
What? Unlikely what? Finish it with a but or whatever.
Well, if you allow me,
I
right?
am.
So there's unlikely on one side,
Yes.
you have a liquid level, right?
Yes.
And then you have a plug,
Yes.
which stuck. And you have a force of liquid pushing down that you're going to have any significant vapor space
Yeah.
in that line.
Right. So whether we call it air, we call it vapor space, we call it water, we call it oil, fluids, right? In that confine. Yes?
Yes.
And that this plug that you were mortally afraid of moving, as you have, to help us, isn't it that one of the causes that in your surmise is that it had been deflated somewhat and that caused the movement into the pipe?
Yes.
Right. So it is not a full plug at that stage because it would have been at some level deflated, correct?
Correct.
Right. So the likelihood, as a scientist or whatever you want to be, common sense person, that was unlikely to create a restrictive vacuum-proof barrier, wouldn't it?
I don't understand the question.
I expected you not to. Did you expect it to reinflate itself? To reinflate itself? You know, if they want to go into the witness box, I am so delighted to take you after hours. But I am dealing with this witness here today.
I know, but it was quite
Yes.
a funny question.
Yeah. Of course.
No, please ask the question again.
Of course.
And
Yeah.
think about the question because
Thank you.
I didn't follow it.
Of course. This plug, did it reinflate itself to become a plug again?
The plug was stuck in the pipe.
Yeah. What do you mean stuck? To the point that nothing moved beyond it?
To the point that when we opened it,
Opened what it?
the flange on bird 5, there was a difference in level between 5 and 6.
Yes.
Days later,
Right.
right?
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Right? Okay. So, tell all of us, with your science, that if you wanted to prevent the furtherance of a delta P to cause catastrophic movement, what is the simplest answer to that? How do you do that? Not to plug off or put a flange at 5 to prevent the movement of air or fluid out of it? Yes or no?
No,
No?
no.
Is that what you ultimately did, though? To mitigate the danger of a delta P recurring?
No.
You all never plugged off one end?
We removed the blind flange from 5.
You removed.
Yes.
You removed. Let me have you quite clear. You removed what from 5?
The blind flange from on top of 5,
Right?
we took it off.
And that, what was the purpose it was put there?
Because when they finished the carburetor testing on 5, when they checked it was good, as part of their works is that you don't leave an open pipeline, you close it
Right.
with a blind flange.
Yeah. So when you
Put
remove.
a lid on it.
I beg your pardon, sir?
That's what she means. You put a lid on it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So having put a lid on it, yeah. My friend knows everything. When you remove the lid, would there not have been a danger of a movement of the delta P? Yes or no?
There's no danger of movement of LTP. You mean movement of the plug?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
But the differential moves, right? At different areas, the different differentials. You agree with that?
One side of the plug would have had a higher pressure than
Right.
the other side.
Yes.
So that would cause the plug to move.
Good.
Right?
There we go. We understand each other now. So having removed that flange, was there not a danger in causing a differential P to cause movement of the plug?
Yes.
What time was that flange removed?
I can't remember. Maybe about in the 3 o'clock or
There
4
you go.
o'clock in the morning or something.
No.
around there.
So by which time,
5 o'clock in the morning.
5 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
So by which time we take it then that you are no longer afraid of the movement of this plug and the differential P causing a catastrophic vortex?
At that time, right, we would have already knew that we can't really enter and see anything else from bridge 6.
Wow.
So we move.
Hold on. I'm sorry. If you
No,
drop
she
your
was
voice
saying-
a little
She
bit.
was saying something. Let her
Yes.
finish.
Yes.
So by that time, when we moved the plug, the blind flange from 5, it was because we would have already installed the riser on 6. We were sent a crawler in, and we couldn't go any further, and we couldn't see any further. So then, it's a pipe. You could only go from either one side or the other, right? So we went to the other side and took off the lid, right? And we sent the crawler in from that end.
Beautiful.
Can I understand that, please? Given that there was a plug in the pipe, which you regarded as a really rather important issue,
Yes.
what was the point of sending a crawler in on the other side of that plug? There couldn't have been, could there, anything other than fluid on the other side of it?
At that time, I would not have known what size that plug could have been deflated to, right?
I mean, it could have been made so small that a
Stuff.
person could have gone past it.
I wouldn't have known that. I wouldn't have known if it's possible and what's not.
Well,
But
how
there was no
undeflated? That's not a right word.
Deflated.
Uninflated. Uninflated or deflated, either of those will work. So, uninflated. How big is the pipe anyway? The plug anyway? Did you know?
At that time, no.
I mean, it's quite important to know that, isn't it? I mean, if you take the pressure out of the plug, and it's still quite big, it's like a car tire, isn't it? In a way,
Correct,
that's how
yes,
we've been
yes.
likening it to that. Obviously, with the weight of the car on the tire, it makes it flat, so you can see that you've got a flat tire when it's not inflated. Yes.
Yes.
If you take the wheel off the car, it doesn't look uninflated, does it?
No.
Deflated. Doesn't look deflated because it's just a big thing, a big round thing, isn't it?
Yes.
I'm assuming the plug is the same.
Well, from my understanding, and reading a little bit after,
Yes.
Google, the plug is a certain size inflated, and when you deflate it, it becomes smaller.
Well, obviously it's small. But are you saying that it could deflated? It was small enough for persons to have passed by it.
I can't remember now, but to me it was about 18 inches or something. I can't remember exactly. I'll be guessing.
To you, it was what?
I think it's about 18 inches or something like that.
18 inches.
Yeah, it's on the I'm allowed to say where I got the information from.
Well, we've got a document which deals with the plug somewhere.
Oh,
and we'll
okay.
find it and have a look.
Because
But
it's from the
we've got the manufacturer's specifications as
right,
well.
yeah,
But,
okay.
all I'm interested in, and I think Mr. Ramadar is interested in, is if it is deflated, is it so small that it is now possible for a personal, say, an air tank to go past it? Or is it just slightly smaller so that it's not clinging to the sides?
Well, I mean, if you're taking into account also that some people were saying they were hearing knocking, but from 5, then, I mean, you couldn't see anything from 6, so you want to check and open and see if you could see anything from 5 side.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that rather presupposes, doesn't it, that it was capable of being small enough
Yes.
for someone to get past it in a 30-inch pipe.
Yes.
Did you understand at the time,
No, I
before
didn't.
opening the flange at
No, I
number
didn't.
5, whether that was possible?
No, I didn't
No.
know.
Did you speak to anybody about that?
No.
No. All right. Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Ramadan.
Very grateful to you, sir. So you're sending in the camera from one end, yes? You believed, of course, science tells us that the plug would have gone in first from bird 6 into the pipe and then the men. You agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, when you arrived on the scene, your function was the point person for the incident command team or incident management team. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Your function was to provide us best information to the team so that proper and intelligent decisions could be made. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yes. And of course, you appreciate in a moment of anxiety and a moment of catastrophe that your function is not one of being sitting in an office, as an example, but you have to go out and get information, yes?
And receive, yes.
And receive, of course. Multiple sources, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah? To that end, you wouldn't rely only on speaking with one person.
No.
No. To that end, you will listen to different points of view and different information and then pass that on. You were not the decision maker. Let me get that clear. You were not the decision maker on that scene that day at that time.
Oh, sorry. No, I wasn't.
No. So you understood, if I may say, not just your soul, but your most crucial function was the ears and the eyes of Paria on that scene. Yeah?
Yes.
You're right. Seeing that you'd been in the system for so many years before, you know that oil floats, correct? In water, I beg your pardon. Oil floats in water.
Yes.
Yes. You heard, and you had seen indeed, this boat returning to shore whilst you were going. And you learnt at some stage that Christopher, a survivor, had been in that boat. Yes?
Yes.
And you took time to tell us that he was covered in oil. Yeah?
Yes.
That was a crucial part in your mind of the information you required. Yes or no?
It was a crucial part of information, yes.
Yes. You appreciate that air pockets could happen in an aquarium at your home or in any water environment.
You mean when airs bubble through the aquarium?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? Or air pockets in a pipe.
Yes.
Right? Including Paria pipe will have air pockets from time to time.
Yes.
Right? And with a delta P, you would expect to have air bubbles because that is a suction issue with a vortex, water, and oil coming in. Isn't it?
It's a two-phase flow, yes.
Yes. And you appreciate that Paria's pipes are not pristine in terms nobody went in with a scrubbing brush and detergent and cleaned it out so that there'll be no remnant oil in a pipe. You agree with that?
Well, not this time, yes.
Huh?
Not this time, yes.
Right. So that you appreciate that a diver will seek to find wherever there's a supply of air pocket or so, yes?
Vapor space, yes.
Vapor space. You like this thing, vapor space, right? I'll call it air pocket. You keep it a vapor space.
Sure.
Right. And above the water, if there is such a thing as a vapor space or air, would be water first, as you told us, air above, and in between that, where oil floats on water, there'll be oil, correct?
Yes.
Right. You would imagine, would you not, it be very probable that a diver will be trying to obtain whatever vapor space he could get, and therefore have to pass his face through that film, if I may put it like that, of oil. Yes?
Yes.
Yes. But you were of the view, without knowing much more, that there may have been a far larger quantity of oil in that pipe to the point that visibility would have been impossible, isn't it?
I'm saying that I wouldn't have known
Of course.
how. Okay.
But without knowing, you formed a view. Because you told us this, that visibility is impossible in oil. We agree with that, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. So you took out the ability to see within the pipe without information, isn't that correct?
No.
That was your assessment. Did you convey that assessment? That visibility would have been removed because of oil in the pipe?
I'm saying visibility would have been impaired because of oil in the pipe.
Yes. Impaired to the point, and I don't want to go back into what you said this morning, I still remember it, that impaired to the point of being non-existent.
If you recall,
Help me, I'm not infallible.
right? If you recall, I said that you can't see in oil.
Yeah, that's the point.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
Right? Now you're speaking about, because it's a pipe, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're hearing me, right? It's a pipe, right? And you're saying the oil, there's water, and then there's oil, and there's a vapor space. How do you know? How do you know it was not water, oil, and vapor space? Additionally,
No, but you asked a question.
No, but
so
you
I want
see-
to
He
be
allowed
clear.
the witness to answer the question.
I'm trying
He probably doesn't like the
really
answer.
hard to
I
assess.
like all the answers, Mr. Peterson, all of them.
Just a moment. You've got to let her give her own explanation,
Yeah.
right?
How do I know?
Right? And remember, right? So if you have oil and water and you mix it up, it's not just going to be instantly, right? Water, and then instantly it settles into oil, right? When you whip or you have some turbulence,
Yeah.
right? You're going to have an oil and mixture with water and so on, and it takes a little time for that to occur, to settle. I can't say the impact of how long it will take in salt water, because it all depends on impurities and so on, for how long something takes to settle, right? That's all I was trying to say.
Yeah, I heard you. So you think it would take at least 2 hours for water to rise or the oil to rise? Which is it?
Well, I don't know. I haven't performed that particular scientific experiment.
You still working at Paria?
Well, for the time being, yes.
Oh, well. Are you still part of the incident management team, madam?
The incident command team is stood down.
Stood down.
Yes, it's only activated when you have an emergency.
Are you still part of the team?
No.
No. Are you part of a structure?
Yes.
Oh, but let me finish, because I don't know buts after this one, right? Are you still part of any structure for planning for emergencies?
Yes.
So, we do know that Christopher came out of that pipe. And as you appreciated, he was a live witness, correct?
Yes.
So that you, of course, we appreciate that you believe that there were others who may have obtained information and as you say, multiple sources coming to you, and you would make inquiries of others. When you got there, knowing that there was a live survivor and your function was to go and get the best evidence, best information, as Mr. Maraj always reminds us, from whom did you obtain information in relation to Christopher Boodram?
As when I arrived on the barge,
Yes.
right, I would have spoken to the Paria people who were on site.
Your Paria people mean what? Whom? Names? Or you know nobody there? Or people below your rank they don't even bother to speak with? And you're only dealing with a certain rank of people, isn't that it? You're too big to talk to small people to get information, isn't that?
Mr.
I am putting that to him.
Mr. Chairman. Yeah.
Yes. Now, that's going too far. Right?
Withdrawn. Thank you so much. Now, let me know from whom did you speak with from Paria to get information?
She's already told us she's spoken to Andrew Farah.
Not from, that is LMCS, I'm talking about Paria.
Yes,
Yes.
sorry. She's already told us she spoke to Andrew Farah from LMCS
Yes.
when she was there. She regarded him as the lead or supervising diver.
Right.
That's the person she liaised with when she was there.
Yeah.
You're
still
asking about Paria now.
Yeah. Paria has a structure, correct?
When I arrived on site, right, I can't remember whether it would have been Bisham or Jason Beckles, right, or any one of the HSC guys who told me about it. But there you have to understand, right, there were a number of people on that day on the barge, all present, right? And I can't remember who told me, but as soon as I reached, someone did tell me, because, I mean, I would have seen him. We passed like this, right? And as soon as I reached...
We've covered this ground.
Yeah. So, you see, because I don't want, forgive me, when I try to interject, it's not to stop you from saying what, but it's that matters that we have already dealt with so we could save some time. You remember told us you went there as the eyes and the ears of Paria to make decisions back to your commanding officer, Mr. Piper, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Did you ascertain from anyone with specifics as to the condition of divers who were still in the pipe upon your arrival? Did you do that?
When I arrived, I was informed of Mr. Bertram's condition and how it was reported that said his father right behind him. That's the information I had. I also asked, well, anybody else? And they said no.
Oh, wait, let me get this.
But that is the information as soon as I arrived on site.
Right.
An incident site or an accident site, right? You're busy trying to find out. As you come, you go like, okay, so what's going on? I saw someone being this way, transported back to shore. And I came and I said, okay, so I just saw somebody, that sort of information, right?
No. Well,
if I didn't write down every single thing.
we appreciate that. But you went there on a mission. You went there, and let's see if we could have a listing here to ascertain whether men were alive or dead. Let's put it as bluntly as that. Correct?
No, I wouldn't put it like that.
Okay, you wouldn't put it like that. So you went there to ascertain whether men could have been saved. Yes or no?
I went there to assess the scene.
For what purpose? To put a report? No.
To render. No.
Render. Yeah. There being a live person having just come out, all you learnt was that, and what you just said, his father is right behind. Is that it?
Yes.
Thank you. You never then inquired if the father, now we're talking about Christopher Budram here, having said that to someone who reported that to you, you never inquired about the other. How many did you believe other divers were involved at that time?
4.
4. Could you give me their names?
So, listen, this is...
Take as long as you want.
I don't, do we need her to recite the names of the people who died? Is that really necessary?
Well, I would hope so. But if it is, we keep hearing this muttering about drama.
Just a minute. We're not going to press that question.
No, I will withdraw it. Yes. I ask you, please, I don't cry for me. And I apologize.
Take note. Look, we're both guilty of this.
No, you are not, sir. I am. I beg your pardon.
Both guilty of this. We must recognise that on any view, and whatever we may conclude at the end of this, 4 people have died, and this lady was part of the team that were responsible for the activities that night.
Yes.
And as a human, she's bound to be affected by the fact that people died, in a sense, on her watch.
Yes,
so we can't ignore that fact. I appreciate that then there are questions that need to be asked where they need to be asked. But asking her to name the 4 people who died is not a question that needs to be asked. All right?
I appreciate that.
So,
but there's a reason, and I will withdraw.
Bearing in mind the time now, I was hoping that this lady might conclude her evidence before lunch so that she doesn't have to have it stewing over lunch and have to come back afterwards. So let's see how we go, please. But can I ask you to move along a little?
I thought I was doing so, and that is why I sometimes, get ahead of myself in not asking or allowing the witness to repeat that which was pretty obvious. So, tell me something, in an accident, is there a presumption of death or a presumption of life that you take?
Depends on the accident, I suppose.
Yes. In this one, what was the presumption you went there with upon your arrival?
Life.
Life. And therefore, you appreciated action needed to be taken in a matter of minutes because we're dealing with air, vapor, space. Isn't it?
And I arrived at 6 o'clock, yes.
Right. And what time the accident occurred?
2:45.
How much? 2:45. So 2+ hours having passed, what was your view? It being in your mind that this place, that flooded pipe was with water and oil and vapor. What was your view as to the likelihood of life within that pipeline? Slim, wasn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, not okay. That you were the decision maker in terms of the information you had to relay, isn't it? With your leave, your worship, my lord, Commissioner, this dump that was cast upon us lately, was there a whiteboard at the command center before you left?
I didn't go upstairs, so I wouldn't know that.
So you didn't go to find out up there what had happened already, what they knew already before you went there?
The incident meeting took place downstairs. When I came,
yes,
it was downstairs.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, we're not in an upstairs downstairs situation. Was there a whiteboard in the downstairs meeting area? A whiteboard with all the issues, what they know, what they didn't know? Huh?
Yes.
Good. Was there not on that board, at what time? 15:48 p.m. That is 3:48 p.m. Correct? That a decision had been taken, or at least a view formed.
I'm not saying where you're...
I'm not asking you to look at anything, and we will show you it in a moment.
Yeah, but I need to know where
Of course, I beg your pardon then, and we will go by the time. What page number? 1572. What do you call that board? Could we move to the time frame of 1540?
Which day?
This would be on the 25th. 16? 15. I will introduce you to my optometrist. Yeah. 1548.
Yes, 1548. HSE personnel reported chances of survival are slim.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
And you went with that view.
Just a minute, just a minute.
I beg your pardon, sir.
Do you see that, Ms. Bowles?
You mean the ICT log?
Yes, in the log. Do you see it says
Yes,
there?
I see that.
1548.
Yes.
So that those who had been gathered in this meeting you had downstairs had that information.
Okay. You'll have to ask them that, but okay.
Well, you didn't know this?
I didn't see that. Chances of survival are slim.
Why did you not inquire when you got there? People living, people dead. What is the likelihood?
When I got there, I went downstairs, right?
Well,
Downstairs.
no, you don't need to answer that question. What we know is that that's at 1548. This is pre-Boudram's rescue. When she arrived, Boudram had been rescued. So
That's
the
the point.
position had somewhat changed.
And that's the point. So between the time of that notation and the time that you arrived and knew that Boudram was alive, there was a view held by Paria that the likelihood of survival was slim at best. Isn't it?
I cannot comment on what is written there because I didn't see that.
I think that's better directed to Mr. Piper, don't you?
Well, we look forward to him. So,
Well, the sooner we...
with all due respect,
The quicker we can have Mr.
I don't want the
Piper.
burden on my shoulders that I'm keeping back this thing. I have a job to do, and I'll do it as quickly as I can because you're highly favored, sir, and I appreciate that. And I will do what I can to speed it along. Now, so you went there on site with a presumption of life, yes?
And I hope in my heart, yes.
And a hope in my heart.
Yes.
Acting upon that hope, when Mr. Piper gave you an instruction at around 7 p.m. that there should be no further dive, did you make an inquiry of him because as to what is the next step in saving these lives, knowing time was of the most critical nature.
Yes.
Yes. Did you ascertain from him what that plan was? To get a camera to go in?
Yes.
Right. Cameras save lives, or they help only in making decisions?
Cameras provide information that can save a rescuer's life, yes.
Thank you. When was the decision made, having received all that you could have, that let us do a rescue?
I didn't understand the question.
I
Say it
shall
again.
repeat it.
Or break it down.
When, I will not break it down, I will help, I will simplify it.
Okay.
Right. When was the decision made by Paria to execute a rescue to save the lives of these men?
It was not made to have a rescue.
Thank you. Let me hear you. Paria did not make a decision to rescue the men. That is it. Thank you. Now, Madam, Mr. Piper, when did you first see him on the site?
When I arrived,
And at the site of the accident?
if you're asking me if he was there that night, is that the question?
I'm asking you, when did you first see him on the site of the accident?
I would have left the site of the accident at 6 that morning.
Right. So
which
you
is
saw him at
the
6?
batch. No, I didn't.
So during that period, Piper never came on site?
No.
Did you see
Really
Mr. Wade?
that really isn't his job. The IMT specifies he's meant to be at the IMT.
Absolutely.
Unless you want to attack the whole premise of the IMT, which you're at liberty to do.
Which is what I think well, let me put it to you like this. In all the procedure and all the plans and everything that you had, 4 men died. Do you think that you and your procedure and your plans and everything was adequate?
If you're asking me if I think the IMT plan was adequate,
All of it.
you're asking me if the IMT plan was adequate.
All of it.
All of what?
All of Paria's plans, resources, IMT plans. Do you think it's adequate?
I think what we did, I think we did the best we could have done.
So,
Right? And, well,
Let her finish.
yes.
right? I think we did the best that we could have done,
Yeah.
right? That is what I think.
The
And
best.
Let me finish, right? And let me say, right?
Again,
I've been thinking about it for quite some time. Every day, is there something else, right?
Look, we appreciate that, You're a human being, as Mr. Peterson reminded me.
So what you're saying is that ever since you have been searching your own mind to see whether there was something more you could have done. Have I got that right? Yes. Can we move on then?
Thank you, of course. How would you rate rate yourselves on that day?
Against which yardstick? Against saving a rescuer's life? I think I did well.
Of course.
Right?
You saved the world and allowed 4 to perish. That is the equation, isn't it? You knew, did you not, that the man's son was willing to go and, like risks for all first responders, took that upon himself and said, I am willing to go. You knew that?
We have already asked that. Well, I have asked that question already.
Yeah. Well, with all due respect, right? You knew not just he, but several others were willing to...
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. You want a break? Yes. Right. Well, first of all, can I say, you can have your break. Please allow, take the lady out. We're going to adjourn for lunch now. You'll have your lunch hour now, all right? So go with this gentleman here. Mr. Ramadar, I asked that question. It generated the same responses we've just obtained. It is not necessary for you to ask the question again. We know that there is a different equation between those who are related to those inside the pipe might have taken a rather different view about risking their own lives. I asked her if she took that into account. She got upset. We don't need to press it any further.
With all due respect, I have no intention of pressing that issue of whether it was her own son. No. I'm on a different level because this is a structure, and no structure is anything other than the people who are within it. Well, and therefore, if we have to ascertain how we could prevent this.
I know that, Mr. Ramadar, you've already elicited the fact that at no time did the IMT recommend a rescue. That we've established that we will consider in due course whether that was an appropriate action or not. But the position as it stands at the moment is that they never made that recommendation, irrespective of the fact that there were those who were both prepared and potentially willing and able to perform a rescue were permitted to do so. They were not, according to Paria. All right, so that's where we are. What more do you have after lunch?
I have a few short areas, so I will address that then.
What sort of time are we talking about?
Maybe 15 or less minutes.
Can we keep it to 15, please? All right.
I will try to make it even less.
Do your best to keep it to 15.
Of course.
Thank you.
As I say, you're highly favoured here, so, and your words do mean a lot.
Complimenting me isn't going to get you any longer.
I know it, and it never has. So yeah.
It's a nice try, but it's not going to work. Mr. Pegas, do you have any questions? Just a moment. Mr. Pegas, do you have any questions?
No, Mr. Chairman, no questions of this witness.
Right. Mr. Peterson, I imagine you will have two questions. And what about you, Ms. Prasad-Maraj?
I have just one area.
Well, it is a pity that
I don't propose to take any.
It's a pity we couldn't have concluded this and allowed this lady to have gone off before lunch. Anyway, there it is. We've not been able to do that. We will resume at 2 o'clock sharp. I expect her to have concluded by 2:30. All right? And then we will have Mr. Piper. Thank you very much. We're adjourned till after lunch.